Well, would you look at that? Brother, we have company.
Perfect. I was starting to think they'd never show up. You kept us waiting, hero.
There's only so much we can do to keep ourselves entertained before we level the city. And you were really testing our creativity?
You're lucky we weren't aiming to wipe the city off the map. Or we would have done it 3 times over by now.
What do we want then?
Well, for starters, a chance to introduce ourselves properly. No point in starting our first fight without knowing who we are.
I'm Nyx.
And I'm Nox.
And together, we're the Deadly Dyad.
Aside from that, what do you think, sister? Do we want to fight or talk?
I'm in the mood for both.
I was thinking the same thing. Hope you're good at multitasking, hero.
Your reflexes are as sharp as ever. A good thing, too. It would be such a disappointment for our first fight to be too easy.
Indeed. It needs to be special.
After all, it's going to be our last. Of course we sound confident. We are confident. We've been planning this day for ages.
Planning just how we'd meet you.
And just how we'd beat you.
You've been all we could think of since the day we first saw you.
Tisk tisk, hero. Don't get distracted, or I'll have to take back what I said about your sharp reflexes.
That wasn't enough to knock you out. We've seen you brush off worse.
That's more like it.
Show us all of that heroic strength. Show us why you're the only hero worthy of being our rival.
You should be flattered. Do you know how long we've waited for someone like you?
None of the fledgling heroes we faced before you were a challenge.
We may be powerful, but our powers aren't particularly complicated. Garden variety telekinesis. Anyone with a brain should be able to counter that.
And yet none of them did. We were so disappointed that we started conducting our crimes in the shadows, instead of wasting our time with them.
But you, we saw your debut. We saw you stop that bank robbery.
Honestly, we would have done the same if you hadn't stepped in. We were planning to rob it ourselves that night, but that gaudy little tramp beat us to the punch.
You put her in her place without breaking a sweat. It was enough to catch our eye, and the more we watched you, the more you impressed us.
We knew you were worthy of facing us head on.
And that we were the only ones worthy enough to defeat you.
Of course we like to talk a lot. The banter's half the fun.
Besides, you want us talking, don't you? When villains talk, they get distracted. They slip up, they make costly mistakes.
And even if they don't, which we won't, keeping us talking gives you time for the rest of your team to show up.
Don't act so surprised. We know how you operate.
You always have those pathetic little sidekicks on standby. You probably called them as soon as you saw how much damage we were causing.
What's the matter, hero? You don't think you can beat us alone?
You're right. You can't.
And even if you did, it wouldn't matter. What do I mean? It's simple. Say you do stop us today. You chain us up from head to foot and have us thrown in prison.
Sooner or later, we'd break out, and then you'd have to track us down again. And maybe you wouldn't win that time.
Or maybe you would. But while you're busy with us, another criminal is gutting someone in an alley.
It's true you have your little team to help you, but don't you see? Even if you could stop all the crime in this city, you're not going to make a difference. There's still crime in the next city.
In the next state.
In the next country.
All over the world, people with and without powers are lying, stealing, and killing. No matter how ragged you run yourself, you can't stop them. You can't be everywhere at once, after all.
It doesn't matter how much of your own blood you shed to protect others. It's not even a drop in the ocean compared to the blood other people spill. just because they want to.
And you know it, don't you?
Of
course you do.
Maybe this brainless city hasn't noticed, but we have.
Every time we see you, you're a little more haggard.
The circles under your eyes are just a little darker.
Your smile is just a little more forced.
Because every time we see you, it's gotten just a little bit harder for you to ignore the truth. You can't save everyone.
If it's not true, then why are you getting so upset?
You should learn to control that temper, hero. You're making such an awful face.
It makes you look positively villainous.
Deny the truth all you want, but we know it's true. We know how tired you are trying to keep people safe.
But you don't have to worry about it anymore. We're going to help you. How?
By taking the choice away from you.
Freeze. What do you think, brother? Do they look as good as we imagined when they're obeying us?
I think they look even better. It's in the eyes. You can see some of the heroic spirit trying to break through.
You're right. It gives them such a pretty glint. You can struggle as much as you want, hero. But you're ours now.
You see, we weren't being completely truthful with you when we talked about our powers.
We know. It's dreadful etiquette to lie like that.
Our powers go a bit beyond garden variety telekinesis. We can move things physically, but we can also influence people mentally.
But as easy as it is for us to manipulate inanimate objects, manipulating a human being is a bit trickier.
Individually, we're only strong enough to control the particularly weak-willed.
The sort of gutless cowards who would normally trip all over themselves to do what we asked, as long as we promise not to hurt them.
Exactly. Any stronger or braver than a house cat, and the most we can do is push them in a direction they're already inclined to take. Useful, but limited.
But there's a reason we're called the Deadly Dyad.
We're much stronger together.
If the two of us focus on the same person and take the time to break through any mental defenses they might have, well, we don't need to tell you. You're experiencing it right now.
Maybe you felt it while we were talking. That nagging feeling in the back of your mind.
As though someone were banging on a door you didn't even know was there?
You were surprisingly stubborn for someone who didn't even know what we were doing.
Commendably so, even.
But we broke through in the end.
We always do.
Honestly, you should be thanking us. This is the start of a new life for you, and a much easier one at that. No more running around the city trying to bail out a sinking ship. No more carrying the lives of all those innocents on your shoulders.
Now, you don't have to worry about anything. You'll just be our little puppet. We'll pull your strings, and you move how we see fit. And you don't even have to feel conflicted about it, because you don't have a choice.
Speaking of which, I think our puppet's first performance is fast approaching, sister.
It is. It's about time your little team got here. Are they all there, brother?
I think so. There's only 3, right?
Unless they've taken in any new idealistic fools recently, then that should be all. The elder one, Sapphire Knight, and the one with the tail. What is she called again?
Catastrophe?
That's it. How tacky.
Luckily for us, we won't have to remember them much longer.
Indeed. Oh, hero? Kill them.